Welcome to our channel, guys. It's Before Married 21. I'm going to be telling you guys a story about how my marriage got disrespected in an Uber. So we moved to Canada about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, because January of next year is going to make it 3 years. So we get to apply for Akbali. Anyway, I remember before we moved, a lot of people were concerned. Like, what if you don't get a job? What if this happens? What if that happens? And I was very calm. You know, everyone was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? You're relocating. Like, you're uprooting your whole life to another country and you don't even have any guarantees when you get there. Like, what makes you so confident? I didn't answer them at the time. Obviously, we knew that God was going to provide, but I also knew that bad as it bad, you know, even if I don't get a job, I would drive Uber to support my family, you know. And to be honest, like, that's what I did for the first few months until I got a job. And even after I got a job, I was still doing it because it was paying well. Like, people don't realize, but I was making almost $1,000 a week driving Uber. And, you know, it was a very, very interesting season of my life. You know, it humbled me. To be honest, it wasn't really a humbling experience because I was making money. But it made me realize, and I was proud of myself because I realized that I was able to do anything to support my family. I was able to do anything. I could have worked in McDonald's if that didn't work out. You know, flip some burgers just to make ends meet. You know, because I feel like I was sheltered growing up. Although I worked when I was in uni. But anyway, okay. Very exciting stories. I mean, I did it for about a year. More than a year, actually. Because when I got a job, I was still doing it part-time. But a lot of interesting stories to tell you about. There was a time when a guy offered me cocaine. And I'm like... The guy was like, do you want some? And his friend was like, dude, you don't just offer anybody. Like, what if this guy's the police? Like, and I just smile like... You guys need to get out of my car quickly, man. Yeah, there was another one where a girl almost threw up my car. I'm like, babes, don't try. Don't try it. You know, if you want me to park so you can throw out outside, don't throw up in my car. You know, there were a lot of exciting stories like that. Too many. And, you know, there was a guy who he had just been to some girl's house to try and do some stuff and he couldn't get his stuff to work. You know, and he entered the car and he was very embarrassed and he shared his story with me. And then I saw that as an opportunity to share the gospel with him. You know, I'm like, dude, the reason why that happened is this that happened to me before. And, you know, this is how God transformed my life. And, you know, we're able to make that connection. I think that was what I loved about it the most because I got to speak about marriages a lot. I had a lot of conversations about marriages in those Uber rides, you know, fixing relationship problems, sharing the gospel with people. I think it was very amazing. But there was one, and that's the story that I want to tell you guys. There was one that really, really tops everything. Like, it shocked me to my core. You know, even thinking about it now, it's just ridiculous. So there was this day, I usually used to drive in the mornings, come back, pick OG to take her to work, drop my son off at daycare, come back to sleep, and then do it before I go pick them up again. You know, so there was this day I picked up Uber pool. So if a few people had gone into the car, dropped them off at work. And then there was this guy, Indian guy. He had the whole turban. You know, when a guy wears that thing, you are thinking this guy is so religious. You know, he had the whole turban. I think it was like pink or purple or lilac, one of those colors. And, you know, he was very quiet. So everyone had dropped off. He was now the one left. He was the only one left in the car. And I was driving him to work. And then, you know, for me, I was a very engaging driver. So, you know, I would want to talk. I would want to engage the passengers or the riders, you know, just to get a feel for who they are and, you know, just engage them in conversation. So I started talking to this guy, you know, and then he started talking back. You know, he felt quiet, but he started having a conversation with me. And then he was like, are you married? And I'm like, yeah, like, and he's like, are you happily married? And I'm like, yeah, like, it's amazing. And I started talking about marriage and how most people miss it because they pick the wrong partners. And I was just having a very, like, my usual self. And then the guy said, oh, he's about to get married as well. And I'm like, oh my God, like, congratulations. Like, who is she? Blah, blah, blah. Like, are you excited? And he's like, no, he's not really excited because he's gay. I'm like, okay, does she know? And he's like, no. So I'm like, dude, like, you can't do that to her. Like, you know, you can't get married to her. She's thinking she's getting married to a straight guy and then she's getting married to a gay guy. And I'm like, dude, I respect your decision to be whatever you want to be, but don't get married to someone who doesn't know who you really are. And he's like, no, like his family doesn't know. It's just something that, he's been in the closet and he doesn't want to come out because it's going to upset a lot of people. I'm like, dude, like you're in Canada, you can be who you want to be. I didn't tell him this, but I don't agree with your lifestyle. But I mean, I respect your decision to do what you want to do with yourself, but don't get married to this person without telling them what they're getting into. And then the conversation goes funny. The guy's like, do you want to try it? As in, I almost had accent. I was like, oh, as in, try what, bro? Like, try what? Like, he's like, do you want to try it? I'm like, and like, to be honest, I thought this guy was joking. I thought he was pulling my legs. Like, I was waiting for him to laugh. Like, I was waiting for him to laugh, and it was like, no, do you want to try it? And I'm like, nah, bro. Like, I'm married. I mean, it's like, come on, man. I'm like, is this guy? I be lady, as in. I said, like, come on, man. Like, I heard, and had asked me where I'm from. I said I'm Nigerian. It was like, I heard Nigerians are good. Oh my God. I was like, what have I put myself into today? Like, the guy just kept on. It's like, come on, like, like you should try it once. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I already told you I was married. I told you I was happily married. Like, what kind of conversation are you having with me here? And I promise you, I thought this guy was joking. I was waiting for him to laugh and be like, I'm just pulling your legs, bro. And next thing, I drop him off, and this guy just opens the door and walks off. And I'm like, this guy wasn't joking, Sha. Like, what? Like, I was so scarred. I messaged Uber immediately, and I'm like, this just happened. I feel violated. I feel disrespected. I clearly told this guy that I was married. Why would he proposition me in that way? I messaged Uber, and for the first time ever, Uber called me like 2 minutes later. I don't know how they did that. I don't know who saw that message. I was like, this is urgent. Like, the guy called me. He's like, what happened? I'm so sorry about the experience. It will never happen again. We're going to message again and tell him that if that happens again, that we're going to suspend his whatever, disconnect his or terminate his account. Like, I was pretty upset because I'm like, if I told you I was single and ready to mingle, maybe you could have propositioned me or whatever. But I clearly told you that I was married, and you still went ahead to ask me that question. And I called OG on the phone immediately. I was like panicking. I'm like, why would he tell me that? Like, was I being like, did I show him anything that encouraged him or whatever? And OG started laughing. I'm like, this is not funny. I'm actually being serious right now. She's like, this guy, like, you're attracting guys and babes. Like, I'm like, babe, like, this is actually, I'm actually scarred. Like, I didn't drive that whole day. I just went back home, and like, I don't know why it got me like that, but I felt really violated, And there are two things that I want to pick out from that story, because I know a lot of us have fears of, getting married to someone who isn't what we thought, who we thought they were before marriage. There are people who are bisexual, gay, and you're getting married to these people without even knowing it. There are people who have fetishes. There are people who, have other children outside, people who want more wives, and you want to be able to know these things before you make that decision. I mean, you can't just get married to someone, they're keeping all these secrets, and then it's when you get married that you now realize that this person is this way. So that's one fear that a lot of people actually have, before getting married. We don't want secrets known after marriage. We want to know them before marriage, and I feel like this is one area that a lot of Christians don't intentionally pray about. His sexuality, her sexuality, because these are the realities of marriage. You could get married to someone, and when you get married, you realize that person has a different sexual orientation, but you're already married and you're stuck, but you want to know these things. So my thing to you is you need to become intentional. Whatever you see in your life is a product of seeds that have been sown in your past. So if you want to see a good harvest in the future, you need to plant the right seeds now. And that is why I created a seed journal for people who want to become intentional about their marriage. You want to commit 10 areas of your husband's life into God's hands. You want to plant those and sow those seeds so that when the harvest comes, it is what you planted. The Bible says you cannot plant orange trees and get mango. One of those things that we confess and we pray about in the seed journal is his sexuality, where you commit this area of his life and just say that, you know what, this guy will only have eyes for you. This guy will not be a homosexual or a transgender or whatever. This person is going to be in alignment with what God has for me. If you want access to the seed journal, it's going to be in the description below. Also, another thing is a lot of us don't take marriage serious. And this is what happens. There are a lot of divorces happening left, right, center. And when people see this, they don't take it as serious as they should. How can I tell a person that I am married, I'm happily married, but it just goes out the window? Guess what? He has heard it many times before. He has seen it many times before. He has seen people who he thought were madly in love with each other, and then all of a sudden finds out that one person cheated, or they're getting a divorce, or something just comes to distort that image. So we need to start taking marriages serious. If you don't, if you're not ready, please don't get married. Make sure that you study the laws that govern marriage before you get in. Before people start driving cars, you need to go to a driving test, or you need to go to a driving school, do the driving test, get certified before you're actually put on the road. And it's the same thing with marriage. I think about a month ago, I did a series on the 4 laws of love. There are laws that govern marriage, and until you understand those laws, you have no business getting married. I feel like we need to start getting very serious about commitment in marriage, because we hear stories of ladies who are still trying to seduce men who they clearly see a ring on their finger. This guy is married, but oh well, I'm going to shoot my shot anyway because he might be one of those guys. We need to start encouraging more Christians to start living and building marriages based on God's principles. We can't afford in this dispensation as well to have people start to question marriages and think that it actually doesn't work. And this is why we actually started this platform, because we want to show single Christians, want to make them the right people for marriage by showing them what marriage looks like, what God when done God's way. So if this looks like the channel that you'd love to subscribe to, please subscribe, like, share, and please, I would love to hear your comments in the comment section. Like, did that surprise you? Like, it shocked, like it literally shocked me. Like, this guy had a whole turban. Like, he looked like one of those religious Muslim guys. And to be honest, it's not just with Muslims. There are Christians as well who claim to be born again, who are singing in choir, but are living this kind of lifestyle. So it's nothing against that religion. But there are people who have the appearance of holiness but actually are not. They're far from it. So what did you think about the story? Like, it was like, till today I'm still like, what? I'm better now. But anyway, OG's back next week, guys. It was my birthday on Thursday. So yeah, thanks so much for the well wishes. Thanks for the encouraging words. Thanks for your prayers. I really appreciate it. I've been turning 30 years old for the past few years now. It's just been amazing, just staying 30, I'm not old. I'm not getting older. I'm not getting younger. I'm just staying at that 30, man. You feel me? So until next week, we have something really, really special. I think OG and I are going to switch it up a bit. So don't forget the seed journal. If you want to become intentional about your marriage, OG and I did it. OG started praying for me before. Started praying for a future husband, for his salvation. Very close to the time where I actually gave my life to Christ. So this thing actually works. Jesus Christ said that if the kingdom of God is like a farmer who sows seeds, and the seeds that drop in the good soil produce harvest 30, 60, 90, 100 fold. So you need to start sowing seeds for your marriage. Get the seed journal in the description below, and we'll see you guys next week.